Yes. Okay, y'all. I've been wanting to do that all season, and this episode is so appropriate to start out like that. She's already laughing. As always, I'm thanking everybody who's been involved in the Let's Talk podcast, who listens, who shares it, who likes it, who comments, gives me their realistic feedback, and everything like that. So I'm just thankful that everybody's on this journey and we're doing this together, and that I have the privilege of facilitating this journey with all these amazing women. This podcast is all about taking the story that women are supposed to tell, throwing it out the window, and telling her unapologetic story the way she wants to tell it in her own time and her own words. And you know that looks different every single time. Warning, in this podcast, there is cursing and adult content.
Hey everyone, my name is Nayab and I'm 36 years old. My zodiac sign is a Leo. And my goal today is to share with you things I don't think I've ever shared before, especially not on radio. You're listening to LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast season 2. Yay!
And I'm the host, Legina. Yeah. Okay, Nayab. Oh, I'm so excited. Since we've decided to have you on the podcast, I literally will be in the middle of conversations and I'm like, no, save it for the podcast. I don't want to know. So one, this will be my first genuine actual time hearing some of the stuff that you're about to share, but we talk all the time. So it's no big deal. So this is going to be a ride of a conversation. I'm super excited. I met you through Y Combinator, and like a lot of the ladies in season 2, as we know, because it's about Houston and women in Houston that are entrepreneurs and moving in the community, we met through Y Combinator virtually.
That's true.
Yeah. And
I remember that conversation like it was yesterday.
Oh my gosh. And then here we are like over a year plus later.
We met once after Y Combinator and it was just, I feel like we just got along. Like you knew and I knew, and not everything just had to be said. And that was the best part.
Yeah, most definitely. And so that's how I met you. And then COVID hit and we decided that we needed to amp up this friendship in like a crazy way. And we still haven't met this year at all. And there's 10, 15 days left in the year. This is crazy. It's crazy. But the reason why I appreciate you as a human is that you move in a way, staying in the light, but still being very true and truthful. And I appreciate that in a person. And you don't always get that in people. You're the homegirl I text when I'm pissed about my business, and not only because you're now on my team for the us space, but just because of who you are and your communication style. You'll be like, fuck it, get over it. Now, what are we going to do to fix it? And I don't always get that type of friend because I'm that friend. And so I love you for those reasons. And that's why I appreciate you. And I appreciate you being here today in the midst of your move and being a wifey and having a baby. Well, a baby, they're all babies, but like she's 3.
She's two.
She's 2. Oh my gosh. So I literally met her when she was a baby, met-ish. So yeah, I appreciate just you taking the time to be here with me.
Oh no, I'm super excited to be here. And we've been planning this for a long time. So this was the perfect way to end the year.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mumbai and we lived in a joint family. So that was like my parents, my dad's parents. My dad has 2 brothers, them. My younger uncle has his daughter. So it was fun growing up. There was just a lot of people around. It's pretty common in India. Like families live together. Kids don't exactly leave when they're 18. Nobody's going to, you go to college, you do everything, you go to work and you're still living with your parents. I feel like it's a different life because when I moved to Houston, I realized there is just so much you don't know because your life is so protected. Because you always have a parent or adult or someone more adult than you in the house who's taking care of everything else. So moving here and doing everything yourself was actually like a wake up call, because I'm like, there is a lot to do. So I have a younger brother, and he is I tease him that he's my first child, because he's always been, somebody who was rebelling, was crazy, and I was apparently the good one. I was rebelling in my own way, but I don't think anyone noticed, because my brother was doing the crazy shit. And so my parents split up when I was pretty young. I think I have spent a decade in denial after they did. My relationship with my mother wasn't the best, because, I was living with my dad and his family. Mm-hmm. And my brother for a while was living with my mom, and he obviously wasn't studying too well. I think we both rebelled by not studying at school. Like, we would just get really bad marks. We would do really badly. Intentionally, like I would just be like, who cares about this stuff, right? Because who cares? And I regret doing those silly things now, because I'm like, that's pretty kiddish. But I mean, you're a kid. That's all you know how to do. I mean, what are you going to do? The max I can do is I won't study to the school you're sending me to. So I guess that was that. But I got to know my brother much better when he moved to a boarding school. So he needed a guardian, and my dad traveled for work to Dubai. So he wasn't really around, and my mom was in her house and I was in the house with my grandparents. So it was like all four of us were in a different place. And because he needed somebody to go visit him often, I made it a point that was me, and I would go as often as I could to see him. And this was while I was in college, which is the last 2 years of high school for you. In India, we go to college after we're 16.
Well, damn. Yeah. Don't even get me started on that. But okay, keep going.
So that was that. And I think we became really good friends first. Like, he was my friend at first, I know he needed like protection, and like I was always protective about him. Like, I was the mother, all mothering him, making sure he had everything he needed. I let go of all the crazy things he would do, because I had a soft corner. I would be like, that's fine, we'll figure it out. You don't need to do it. We'll figure it out. And yeah, so that's my brother. I had a great relationship with my dad. Most of it for a long time was on the phone, because he was traveling so much. But I'm really close to him. I can tell him anything. I think what suffered the most was my relationship with my mom. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things I regret now. I was a pretty shitty daughter. But I think I'm making up for it now. Like, since I've had my own daughter, I look at everything in a very different light.
Yeah.
And I'm working on making things better with her. So yeah.
What is a moment that has impacted your life that you can like recently remember?
It's going to sound cliched, but it is definitely the birth of my daughter. I think it has impacted me a lot. I think it's grounded me in a way that I didn't know. So before she came along, I was back home, like back in Bombay. I would work as many hours of the day as I could, because that is just what I did. I related everything in my life to work, so that is all I was going to do. It didn't matter. Even once I moved here and I started Bora Pantry or Indian Food Trail, I feel like I had only one focus, and family for some reason would come second, even though Z is awesome and, we had fun and all of that. But I never thought of something could take place before work. And now everything's changed. Now I'm like, I have my priorities. She's there. You have to think about your parents. I have to think about different things. I have to think about my own health. Like, it's time to focus on what's going on with me, and everything else just comes after that. I've changed pace. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like running anymore. I'm not running from anything. I'm not running toward anything. I'm just fine where I am, and everything's going to happen in its own time. And I feel like that realization took too long to come. I think it's very difficult to achieve just the right amount of balance that you want between your work and your personal life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the struggle is.
Yeah, that's a struggle, always and forever. So you have the moment that impacted your life. Your daughter impacted your life. What's the moment in your life that you experienced that changed your life?
Wow. So there are quite a few of these little moments that I think changed my life. Um, I don't know. I think one of them is goes back to the fact when my parents got separated. The second time is when I actually built that relationship with my own brother. I think a little later is going to be when I started working very early. My dad, his parents weren't rich. They weren't doing very well growing up. So, him and his younger brother, like my uncle, they've worked very hard to, get where they are. So it amazes me. Like I'm extremely proud of what they have achieved, to see their lives and to see how they were able to give all of us a really good life. So coming from there, but growing up, in a way, I was still alone because nobody else was around. And I always knew that I had to like start working or do whatever I had to do because there probably would be no fallback. Or I didn't want to ever have in my head that there is going to be a fallback. So I started working when I was around 17, 17 or just about to turn 18. And I haven't stopped since then. So I would even then go to school in the morning and freelance in the evenings. And I would have a full week no matter what. I would do events. I would do like crazy, crazy small things like work backstage, run around backstage, like do the silliest jobs, but I would do them no matter what. Because I've always had this fear of not having something to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I always pack my schedule with let's do this, let's do that, constantly doing something. And so I think when I started working and I got my first paycheck, that was another moment that changed my life.
I remember that, girl. That moment changed my life too.
And there's been no looking back. But I'll tell you another moment that actually did change my life was when I moved here and I did not have a job for the first time. I was like, what does one do with their life now? Because that's all I'd ever known. But I'm so glad that I got to have the time to take off because I realized there are so many other things that I like to do with my time. There's so much else that I could do than just constantly have to think or, run around for work. And I think that was the most, that changed me a lot. So I feel like I am two completely different people. Like one is the one that I left behind in Bombay and the one that I am now. Yeah, no, I think in my 20s, I was working. So on that front, it was great. But I think personally, I wasn't evolving, if we have to be completely honest. Mm-hmm. It's just a string of low confidence, some really crappy relationships, if you will. Like, it just, now when I think back at it, I'm just like, what was I doing? Did I just drink through that whole decade? Like, how drunk was I?
All the way. Because I was.
All the way. I was positively drunk.
So you were talking about shitty relationships and everything else. So walk us through what your relationships look like in your 20s, Nayab, 20 years old, living in Mumbai, right? You were living there?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I did not. I don't think, actually, I know for sure that I had no idea what I wanted at that point. It's just, it was what it was, you realize that at some point I could have been married much earlier, but I didn't want to, I just wasn't ready for it. So I ran from that. Mm-hmm. And then there was, I feel like, I don't know how to say this, but like everything just started well and then it just wasn't it. And I don't know if I was the... Yes, but then I attracted the same kind over and over again. You know what I mean? Like I was just in a loop of... And it was just stupid. Like...
Okay, so Nayab, I want to know about how you got to the United States and how you met your husband, because I know that has to be a story in itself, and I've never heard it. You're listening to the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast. All right, y'all. I hope you like what you're listening to. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at LRI Let's Talk. Drop a comment and let us know what you're thinking.
Okay, so Z and I have had a lot of people in common. Like our grandmoms were best friends. Our parents knew each other. We have a few friends in common, but we had never met because Z has been moved to Houston while he did his undergrad here. No, I think he finished his undergrad and moved here. I should know that after 8 years of being married to him. But and one of my aunts, she lives in Washington, D.C. She's awesome. Okay. So she calls and she's like, there is someone I need you to meet. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not going to meet this person because she had been trying to, find the right one for a while. And I was like, I don't know. And it was just like, it was getting to a point where everyone was concerned that you're not seeing anyone and you don't want to meet anyone. It doesn't make any sense.
How old are you?
So, 28, 29. Like, I feel like if I was seeing someone, it wouldn't have been this crazy, but I wasn't. So just once she called and she's like, she put me on, so I ignored her email once, I think. So she put me on this group email with a common person and everyone. And then she's like, so I would have to reply to that. So I replied and I'm like, okay, that's it. And I remember I blocked my Facebook profile so that no one could check me out or anything. So I opened it up. I added this guy and I added Z and we emailed each other. And I remember he sent this. I even remember the date he sent it to me. It was the 25th of May in 2012. I was finishing work. I remember where I was and I get this email and I'm like, ew. And we were having a drink, like my best friend, this guy, Hussein and I were having a drink and I get an email from this guy like, hey, let's catch up. I got your number from so-and-so. So I showed him the email and we were like, oh, this is so not going to work out. So I was like, yeah, this is not. And I had been introduced to like a few others and that hadn't worked out. So I had this little group on WhatsApp of my friends and everyone knew who I was meeting. And I was great friends with everyone in my team at work as well. So everyone knew every time I was about to be set up with someone, everyone was all news. Like, what's going on? Like I would give everyone proper updates. This is where I'm going. This is the coffee shop I'm going to be at. So when Z emailed, everyone's like, so now you're not meeting him. So we have to figure this out based on your emails and, calls if y'all are ever going to meet. So I was like, whatever. So we emailed each other a few times and that was all right. And one night I remember that it was, of course, it was strange because of the time difference, because at my night would be the time that he would be at work or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we spoke to each other one weekend and we spoke through the complete weekend. I was on the phone all day and all night. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And we were just randomly catching up on like life, like nothing crazy, but there was just a lot to catch up on. And out of nowhere, he's like, Z's older brother was getting engaged and in London. So Z's like, oh, I'm going to London and I may actually come to Bombay after that. So I was like, oh, cool. We'll catch up then. So we met when he was in Bombay and we had 2 weeks. So we met and we had been talking to each other for about 6 months and that was it. Like he was leaving he's leaving back for Houston. And we got engaged at that point, like not really engaged, but just like, hey, I think this is going to work. And that was it. A year later, we got married.
Yo, okay. So one, you got like backdoored into an arranged marriage. Like it was like arranged, but not arranged type situation.
Yeah, it was arranged, but not arranged, but it was arranged. Let's be honest. That's what it was. I wouldn't have found it myself. So I was, I think, 6 months until the engagement, and a year from that until the wedding.
So a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow. That's crazy. So y'all marry a year and a half after meeting, and then he's still living in Houston, right?
Oh yeah, he's still living in Houston. I know I traveled to Houston within that year, because like just to meet, right? Because it was a whole long distance thing. So I traveled to see him and just to see what the city is like, because this was going to be like a huge move, to I'd never considered leaving the country. And I was like, okay, this sounds, I mean, it felt right. It just felt right. Like I didn't have too many questions in my head or worries, or normally I'm this super anxious person and you know that. But I was like, yeah, it's going to work itself out. I don't know. I was pretty easy about all of it. Like, and that was it.
So where was your wedding?
It was in Bombay. And then we did like a little reception here in Houston as well for all. So all of these friends are here, right? I mean, not everyone could travel back. So we did a little thing here. So everyone, we could celebrate with everyone here. And some of my closest friends were in the US as well. They were in California. So they made it. They didn't make it to the Bombay wedding. They made it to the Houston wedding.
I definitely want to know more about your traveling.
I had actually shipped myself a few boxes of a few things that I love. And I actually brought my books all the way from India to here because I'm like, I love my books. Yeah, they are heavy, but they came with me. And I had my friends at home packing for me. They were like, we'll pack, because everyone knows how much I suck at it. So my 2 suitcases were getting packed with my friends were packing it.
Oh yeah, I'm good for like a packing party. I'm like, come on guys, I'll cook, and everybody like, let's pack and clean Legina's house.
But this came down to us moving last week, because I tried packing. Like I would put things in a carton and I feel like the carton would just be done. And Z would just be like, what are you even doing? And he was so mad. He's like, I can put 50 more things in this carton. I'm like, then okay, suit yourself.
How do you get a daughter? Have you always wanted kids?
Oh yeah, I've always wanted kids. I knew I wanted 2 kids. Like I know I have 1 and I'm probably not having another one, but in my own head, I've always thought of, if I have kids, I'll have 2, only because I think my brother's really important. Like I wouldn't know what to do without a sibling, right? Mm-hmm. So, but on a different side, there's a side to me that was like, I'm going to make the worst mother in the world. Because I don't know what thing. One of my friends, Nupur, right? Like, I don't even consider her my best friend. She's just family. She had her son. And I remember the first time I met him, I was just staring at him because I was like, I don't know what to do with babies. She's like, this is just, you're just freaky. You're staring at my son.
Yes. I used to have a rule that I would not hold a newborn, and like it was just a legit rule. Like I no, it's fine. Like no. And not because I didn't know how, because I've always worked at daycares and all that stuff. I'm just not interested in the head movement and the rat face baby.
I didn't know how, Legina. I didn't. I had no experience with kids. So after watching her do everything so effortlessly, I was like, this parenting thing is not for me. Oh, wow. This is a situation. So I remember I met my doctor and I have PCOS. Okay. So he tells me, you're never getting pregnant. So I was like, okay, cool. Fine. This is like October 2017. And I remember my brother was planning to get married and I was going to go to India in March or April of 2018 because that's when the wedding is. And we're trying to figure out when this wedding is. So Z and I spoke about it and we were like, if I'm never going to get pregnant, like this man says, then, either we can adopt or we can, do IVF or we can try something else. And I was like, I don't want to stress about it because I just don't want to make everything about having a baby at that point. Like, you know how it is. Like, I don't want it to weigh us down. So he's like, yeah, it's cool. We went from there. It was, by the time we made this decision, it was Thanksgiving. And, from Thanksgiving, nothing really happens in life. So we were like drinking, partying. We were in New Orleans. We were just like having the best time. Who cares? Come February, actually, we go to the doctor. I think it was end of February or something. And he's like, just to find out, what the process is and what for doing IVF or anything is. Mm-hmm. And he just looks at me and he says, but you are pregnant.
What?
And Z and I were just staring at him like, you must have lost your mind. And he's like, no, for sure, you're pregnant. You're about 8 weeks pregnant from what I think.
Oh, shit.
And I just couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, what is happening? So I was like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, possibly. Like, we had no idea. It came from nowhere. There was no plan. There was nothing. There was an adoption on the cards. There was IVF, but there was just not the baby.
I mean, you still sound like you're shocked about it, but that's what happens when you have sex with your husband. I'm just saying. Babies
Oh, yeah.
come.
Thanks. They happen.
Y'all don't listen to that shit when you hear it. You hear me, y'all people out there? Like, if somebody says, if a woman walks up to you, men, and says she can't get pregnant, don't believe her, because she may not know what, all higher powers have for her. And if just don't listen to doctors when it comes to that, because babies come.
Seriously, they come. But all said and done, she came at the right time. Like, it was the best. And I was like, okay, now that she's here, we had a learning curve, but here we are.
I love that. Like, I see that you're giving yourself grace by saying we had a learning curve. So you're fucking up. What's an experience that you feel like has empowered you in some type of way?
So the experience of having started my own company. Mm-hmm. So like I mentioned earlier, I came here, I was learning how to cook. I remember one evening I really wanted to make curry. Okay, so curry is a Bori dish that is staple to like Bora cuisine, and we would have it at home, and it's one of my favorite things to eat, and it's even Z's. And I think I was just like, hey, I'm gonna figure this out today. Like, that was my job of the day. I was like, I'm gonna figure this curry out, and I couldn't get the spice mix right. Like, I looked online, I looked everywhere. I just didn't have enough information that if I did not have the right mix, how does a person make this? Mm-hmm. Which brought me to the fact that a lot of the people who are, Bori and who eat this food regularly in the US travel back to India and carry the spices back with them.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I did too initially, because once I figured out that is what's needed to be done, I would have the spices. But then it's also like, why shouldn't they just be available here? I mean, it should be easy to get hold of a spice mix and not have to worry about carrying it back in your bags when you're traveling back from India. And I think starting my own company it had nothing to do with my previous life. Like, I had never done anything with food, let aside think of starting a spice company. And on a whim, we just went for it. So we got all of the things and, just watching it become real, trying to talk to vendors. Of course, my brother helped, Z helped, my dad helped, everyone helped. But because these guys were in India and trying to coordinate with all of that, just trying to get all of that going, get it here, get packaging done, and see it happen and see it sell. And for a long time, they were available in grocery stores across Houston. And I would actually just go to the grocery stores to see them. And I felt so proud of myself in that 1 second. I'm like, hey, I made that. That's here,
That's
and people,
crazy.
it's just, yeah. It was just very empowering in a lot of ways. I think that was my crash MBA, all the crazy that can happen.
What made you stop doing this spice business?
Okay, so I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit. So while I was doing the spice business, I also started another company that was called Indian Food Trail. I was a co-founder, and it was started, my co-founder Hemant contacted me for it, and we got that off the ground. And Indian Food Trail basically was a platform which let you eat the different cuisines of India in the homes of our hosts. So instead of going to a restaurant, you go to our host's home. So if I was a host on Indian Food Trail, you would come to my house to try Bori food. We had someone in New Jersey who did Bengali food. We had someone in Singapore who did Mangalorean food. And we had people in different parts of India who did different cuisines. And so 6 weeks into having Inara, I even participated in a pitch competition in Australia at the Pitch Fest. And, we thought things were looking up for us. But for personal reasons, like, I realized Inara wasn't doing well. She had a feeding disorder, and she had acute acid reflux and a few things that were affecting her food intake. And she just needed a little more attention. So for personal reasons, I stepped down from everything. Like, I took a break. In 2019, I just stepped back from everything I was doing and just decided to focus on her. And I think that was a good thing to do, because That's how I thought of a new idea for a new company. And that's how I met you. And none of this would have happened if it wasn't for me taking a break. I feel like everything just played out that way. And this year I thought was the year I was gonna start back with Bora Pantry, and it didn't work out because this year is what it is. It's been tough for all of us,
Mm.
and so I'm just gonna wait till everything gets better and it's easier for everyone, and maybe next year it is.
Yeah, 2021. And I
Yep.
I'm not crazy about the new year, new me, but fuck, new year, new world. Like it's like everybody, everything.
About time. I think everybody's feeling that way. Like, I'm not the most excited soul like New Year. I'm like, okay, that's another day. But now I'm just like, come on, get over 2020, get over already.
Yeah, and in every aspect you think about, but for real, like this may be like the first year in forever in the entire world where everybody is like gonna truly celebrate together, truly celebrate. And so I'm really looking forward to we're in Hanukkah, the Advent calendar is going, Kwanzaa is about to hit, Christmas. It's just the time of all the religions, even starting with it 2 months ago when Shirti was telling me she was celebrating
Diwali.
Diwali, yes. And then there was something right before that too. My friend Shivani.
Navratri.
Yes, say it again.
Navratri.
Navratri. Yes. So all these things are, there's such a need to celebrate it. But one thing that everybody can celebrate together is when the year ends, it ends, and a new year comes in, and that's a time thing. That has nothing to do with religion or anything else. And so, in general, we're all going to be able to celebrate that together and move into 2021. And I cannot wait. I'm like, get the.
I cannot. Having said that, I think I started when the pandemic hit initially during the shutdown. I think I lost my mind a little bit. But do you remember the call that I made? Like, I think I was at my lowest that week, and I was like, I have no idea what happens from here. Like, I just didn't know what happens next, because it's not like I was working. It was not like I could find a job. It was not like anything that I was working toward on the business front was working out. And I remember I just thought, let me just call Lagina. I feel like she's going to have an answer to this. And you did. And that was that. But I feel like a lot of positivity has come out of this year as well.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So much clarity. And I'm just happy that, I was able to see the positive in the craziness in the beginning.
What's something that you felt at?
So, on a personal level, I am horrible at saying no or even realizing if a situation is good or bad for me. I feel like I did not have that filter, and I've learned from it. On the work front, I feel like overall I could have done a lot more with Bora Pantry and Indian Food Trail, but circumstances and life just took its course, and I I feel like I could have put in more effort.
When you move back into Bora Pantry, once everything's up and going again, what moves are you going to make differently that you didn't make before, or what's something you're going to continue?
So I'm going to do it differently in terms of when things open up, I'm going to try seeing if I can actually manufacture these spices here, like if they can happen in Houston. Also, the last time I had only one goal, like I wanted to be a product that was available in stores, not realizing how much of a hit you take on your own profit, trying to just kind of wholesale the spices. Because there's a distributor and it goes into the retail store and you take a cut. And I've learned all of these things the hard way. So maybe I just don't want to go to a store. I just want to have a better online solution to how I'm selling. Maybe it's just not on the website, and it's a couple of other partnerships on other portals it can be available at.
Yeah, most definitely. Another one of those good things that's come from 2020 is people really realizing that this the consumer and small business market, it's needed, and it's the niche market, and buying directly from the product creator, builder, grower is easier because when we go to like the online supermarkets and all, you know, those big things and the
Right.
sugars and everything, you get taxed like crazy. So you end up not making anything.
Right. It's not just the tax. Like if you had to be in a fancy retail store like any of the grocery stores we regularly go to, there are shelving costs and there are other costs that to keep in mind. So your margin, I mean, unless and until that you have achieved economies of scale with what you're selling, then that's fine because it doesn't matter. But for a small business, it really matters.
What was the biggest challenge for you as a young adult?
I think it was realizing or knowing what I really wanted to do. I feel like I experimented a lot or probably did not experiment enough to not know exactly who I was or what I wanted to do. I've learned that very late. You see teenagers who know exactly what they want, what they like, these are my hobbies, and I wasn't that person. I didn't know any better about anything. It's just that I constantly, at that point in my head, I was only like two things. This is what I don't want to be, and this is what I want to be. And a lot of that related to my personal life and, a home. And I was constantly just trying to break away and do my own thing. And in doing my own thing, I think I was so blindsided that I never really explored all the opportunities that were around.
Right. So who didn't you want to be? And then who did you want to be?
Oh, okay. So no, I didn't want to be like a few people that I know have intentionally hurt my parents. And I mean, at some point I've had this conversation with my parents also. Like I keep thinking about what they could have done differently or how they could have tried to put like my brother and I before everything else. And I realized that it's not possible. I mean, it's all circumstantial and we're kids and we don't realize what they go through. But even with my own daughter, I'm constantly reliving everything. Like I want to be there. I'm overindulgent. I'm in her business. That poor thing is going to have a tough time when she grows up. Because I was like, oh my God, I must be present. I must be around for everything. So it's just how I am. It's just how I'm wired now.
So would you describe yourself as a helicopter parent?
Possibly. If there's a worse term than that, maybe that's me.
What's something that overwhelms you?
Parenting. It overwhelms me.
What about it overwhelms you?
I spent a year being very overwhelmed by Inara's condition, not knowing what's going on with her, going to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, between the US and India both. And I was overwhelmed. Like I didn't know what had hit me. The whole year, I spent the whole year not knowing what was going on with her, and it just drove me crazy. So coming from there, I think it was almost like I had bitten off more than I could chew,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I know all of me and everybody listening wants to know, like, how's Nora doing now? Like, what's going on?
Oh, she's doing great. She's eating everything almost. She's now become a brat thanks to all the not eating in her early. I think she spent almost 20 months of her life not being able to eat anything. So milk, formula, and Pediasure, that she survived on that. It drove us mad. But she's good. She started late, but she's eating now. All her reflux is gone and no more crazy medication, lesser therapy. She's better.
You're listening to LaRae Infinity's Let's Talk podcast. When's the last time you took time for yourself? Ran a bath, read a book, journaled? Oftentimes, the most neglected relationship in our lives is the one that we have with ourselves. I invite you to check out my website for self-guided journals and aromatherapy. That's millyspeaks.com. MILLI speak.com. I believe that writing with truth and transparency will lead to transformation.
What's something that you really like about yourself?
Oh, I really like that you can't get me down. If I decide to do something, I'll do it. I'll make it happen. It can take 100 years, but I'll be there and I'll make sure it happens. Oh, my whole life is a story of that. Anything I put my mind to, I've made sure it happened. Like, even though I had no idea what was going to happen, whether it was a project at work or now at school or like whatever it is. I mean, I think I live off the no or the fact that I think that someone thinks I can't do it. In general, people have this perception of you that she can't do this, or she's not going to be able to make it in this situation, or maybe she's too young to do this project or something like that. I remember at work once, we were doing this event in Malaysia, and we were supposed to go there for a couple of days and just figure out, have a meeting. And I was the youngest person on that team. And we go there and I don't come back for 2 whole months because I was in Malaysia. And I was coordinating everything with our company back in India and with everyone in Malaysia. And I could have bet that everyone thought that shit is going to happen. It's going to fall apart because how is she doing this? Like, she just entered this company. She's randomly just there now for 2 months, and this is not going to work out. But it worked out like a fucking charm.
Yes. What kind of job did you have? What were you doing?
I was working with a general entertainment channel, and I was planning an award show, like a full Bollywood award show.
Oh, okay. So what's that equivalent to here in the United States?
Like the the Globe Awards?
Golden Globes?
Golden Globes.
Oh shit! You were like doing that. How old were you?
I was 21.
Okay. I'm not assuming that this is your biggest accomplishment, just being 21. What? I just caught that as I kept talking. Wow.
Yeah, crazy times. But now it feels like, what was I thinking? What was going on?
Girl.
But that's the thing. I don't think I was sure of like what of myself. Like internally, I didn't know myself that well, but like I knew about work. Like I was like, okay, that I get.
You're just a go-getter. All right. So what's something that you wish that you liked about yourself?
Well, I wish I was a better daughter. That's the most honest regret that I have.
And when you say you wish you were a better daughter, like you said you were living with your dad.
Yeah, as in a better daughter to my mother, to be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with my dad, and my mother lived in the same city, but like a bit far away. And I didn't meet her that often, or I didn't take the effort to talk to her that much because my life was in this other part of town, between school and friends and whatever else was going on. And as a teenager and in the 20s, which I spent drunk, I didn't realize what I was missing out on. Like, it's almost like what we discussed, like, you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you ended up living with your dad because you didn't want to live with your mom? Like, how did that duality work?
That duality worked out with court and the custody battle they had.
So do you think that was the thing that like drove the wedge between you and your mother?
No. I think it was just, I don't think I ever spent quality time with her.
Mm-hmm.
Or I was never able to, or whenever I was with her, it was about, I've only seen them fight. And as a kid, I don't think I understood what she was going through.
So now in your 30s and with your baby and everything else, you're able to like rekindle that relationship.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like, even if I don't, at least I know I've apologized and, doing the best.
And how is she receptive to you?
Oh yeah, she is super strong. She's super strong. She's very optimistic. Like, in her heart, she's you can almost tell she's like, I've already been through the worst. It can't get worse, so it's only going to be better. And she's extremely patient and strong. So she's always silently in the shadows been there, and I know that. I'm not denying that. So she sees it now. It's just that it took me longer than it should.
I don't know. Like, I've always wanted to ask somebody of like divorced parents, and I think you're unique because like you're even from another country. And did you ever feel like you had to pick sides, or did you feel like the court made you pick a side?
No, of course we had to pick sides. We've had to pick sides all the time, and sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. But I wish it wasn't so. I just wish things had played out differently. Like, what if they could have been in touch with each other? They don't talk to each other. So what if they were better friends? You know, they could have been separated. That's fine.
And you just, I mean, our paths and how our parents still play an intricate part in our worlds is just, it's astonishing. It's astonishing. What has been your absolute most favorite day?
I think one of my favorite days, I have a few. I have a couple. I'm going to just off the bat. There was this one time, it's like, I remember we had just been married, you know, had our first anniversary, but because it was the first year I had spent without work in forever, I couldn't, good things were happening, but I wasn't able to understand them. And I was just like, I just woke up one morning all like, fuck this shit. You know, this is not happening. I have to go to India. I'm just going to get my life back. Everything is going to be fine. And Z needs to go back to India now. And he's just like, he's like, what did you smoke? And I was like, I don't know, but this is not working. And I think we had this very nice conversation. Like he sat me down, and I think that is the day I realized how well he knew me. And I didn't realize it. Like, he's like, you need to calm down. You need to realize this is what's going on. You need to see the good. Be less anxious all the time. And I'm like, I see it now. And he's like, okay. So it was like a wake up call for me. After that, it's never come in, you know, I've never had a crazy thought like that. Like, I'm about to pack up my bags and go. But that was that one conversation that made me realize that, you know, he gets all the crazy. So it's, one of my other moments is when my dad was really unwell the year that Inara was born. And he was the only grandparent that hadn't met her yet because we hadn't traveled back to India. And on a whim, he decided to get on the flight and come to the US. And he was here for her first birthday. And just when he saw her, I just can't forget it. Like, it just like, I can't explain it. It just melted my heart. Like, and in that moment, he was like, I wish I had spent more time with you guys as kids, you know, because he would travel for work. So he spent most of his life away from us as kids. Yeah. And it's like, he's like, I just didn't know how you grew up. Like, I have no idea what happened there. Yeah. So that was that. And the other one was actually even my mom. So my mom was around when Inara was born, and she wasn't supposed to be there, but she was there. A whole series of events that happened landed up bringing my mom to the US while I was going to have her. She had come to help us for the first 3 months. And she was just so happy to see her. Yeah. And like, she was cautious with her because she's cautious with me because, you know, we are messy. But you could see her happiness. And that was one of the times where we actually spoke and cried and, you know, hugged it out. And I was like, you know, that's it. This awkwardness ends now. It's gone on too long.
Yeah. So that's almost like that moment that's impacted your life too. You talked about it.
So I feel like these three things kind of, because I feel like I have my guard on at all times, you know. And it just made me realize that at some point I have to let go, and not do this and not alienate the people closest to me.
What's something that's really quirky about you?
I think what's quirky is that I have no filter or no tact, if you will. Like, I say anything. I say anything to anyone. And I think I come off as probably mean or bitchy, but it's not my intention. Like, I don't mean to offend anyone. Like, I don't mean badly. Like, you remember when I called you and I was like, I think Imani thinks I'm crazy. So, because I was like, I feel like sometimes I know what you're about to do is a mistake and I'm just going to say something. And then I'm like, I may have hurt that person.
Yeah. And you know what? But like, she probably wasn't even thinking. She's like, that's why they just hang out together. Because I think we're very much cut from the same cloth like that. And I appreciate it because I definitely do feel like sugarcoating things at the wrong moment, the wrong time, for the wrong reasons, wastes people's time. If it sucks, I'd rather somebody be like, hey, that sucks, but let's fix it. Like, I don't like people that don't offer solutions, but I could say that, yeah, that's really quirky about you.
Yeah. honestly, I've tried to be more diplomatic or say better things or, but it's just not me. I don't do good small talk. I'm bad at those things. And I'm going to straight tell you what I think. I mean, there is no two ways about that.
Yeah, no, it's what I love about you. So there's that. Okay, y'all. So we are wrapping up this episode. As always, our roller coaster of love, emotions, and our highs and lows. I'm going to get Nayab back to her family. Baby girl needs her. The helicopter has to start again. But at least we've established she's not a tiger mom. So there we go. And as always, y'all, I want to thank everybody for listening, going on this journey with us. Tell us what you think. Always tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. when we go live and talk more about side hustles, careers, passions, projects, and everything else. Nayab, thank you so much.
Regina, you don't know how much this conversation means to me. It's one of the first times I've spoken about a lot of these things. And I'm so glad it was with you. And it was on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really honored. And I just appreciate you so much. Everybody out there listening, it's so important. Value your friendships, value the people that see you. And as you're moving through the world, have empathy, be kind. You never know what somebody's going through. And as always, tell your story, be your own brand, live your truth, and stand in your moment.
All right, y'all. My name is Nayab and I'm 36 years old. I hope you all had a good time listening to us talk about our lives, childhood, and some moments that defined us. You listen to my story as I live my truth and stand in my moment on the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast season 2.
Yes! Guys!
Yay!
Beep. Do you have a random joke, like a go-to joke? No.
Please, is this a trick question? Then no, I don't have a joke.
It's not a trick question, I promise you. She said no. Beep.
So should I go back to this year?
Yeah, let's do it one more again. Beep.
Okay. So this year I thought was the year I was going to start back with Bora Pantry and
beep. Anything and everything you can think of happening. What are you doing?
I'm trying to fix my charger in. My phone's going to go off.
Oh. You're so silly.
Tell me.
No. I got to wait till you finish moving. You're good.
Oh, fuck.